Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry I'm late. I had some technical difficulties getting in. Okay, I'd like to declare the meeting open. Good evening. Do we have any apologies? No apologies. I'd like to remind everybody that in accordance with Council's Code of Meeting Practice, the meeting is being live streamed. The prayer of council will now be read by the Acting Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Eddie Jackson. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, councillors. Before we begin proceedings, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet and their ancestors past and present, the Cabral clan of the Darug Nation. I also acknowledge that this land was accessed by peoples of the Darawal and Darug Nations. The affirmation of council. We affirm our hope and dedication to the good government of our city and the well-being of all of Liverpool's residents, no matter their race or creed. Tonight, we affirm our hope for sound decision-making by council, which will improve the quality of life in our city. We express our expectations and best wishes for our Australia, our nation's future, the mayor, councillors and staff of council, and all those associated with good government in Liverpool. The prayer of council. For the God of our faith, we who are gathered at Liverpool City Council pray for the good government of our city. We pray for the well-being of all Liverpool's residents, no matter their race, gender or creed. Tonight, we pray for sound decision-making by council, which can improve the quality of life in our city. We pray for Australia, our nation's future, for the mayors, councillors and staff of council, and all those associated with good government in Liverpool.
Thank you very much. Any condolences?
Yes, I do have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hall.
Thank you. This is a condolence to Arthur Earnest Wilmington, who was born in Penrith on the 14th of October 1929. He was the 8th born of a family of 9. Artie lived all his life in Luddenham. His parents, Clara and Sid, had a dairy farm, and from a young age, 6 years old, he got up to bring the cows in for milking, go to school and come home to help on the farm. Artie loved the outdoor life, and after he married, he had a 50-acre farm of his own. He made his farm into a huge success, but decided at the age of 70 it was time to retire. For 4 years before selling the farm, he started growing roses to sell to raise funds for cancer research and the Cancer Council of Australia. This he continued at his new home, and for the past 24 years, this has been what he wanted to do. He loved the peacefulness of his garden, but he was always happy to pass on his knowledge of gardening. 2 weeks before his passing, he was diagnosed with bladder cancer, but on the 1st of October suffered a heart attack and passed away. His funeral was held at Luddenham Uniting Church and laid to rest in the adjoining cemetery. I would suggest council sends a letter of condolence to his family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Move that the usual condolences be sent, and obviously seconded by Councillor Hall. Is there any objection? That's carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is confirmation of minutes.
Yes, I'll move that way. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, seconded,
Happy.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Did. Any declarations of interest? None. We have no presentations and there isn't a mayoral minute. I understand, Councillor Rhodes, you have an urgency motion?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. The urgency motion is in regard to a property at 122 Atkinson Street, Liverpool, and a possible interim heritage order to be considered by council for the purpose to allow council time to research and report back to council if the property merits a heritage order listing. The matter is made urgent as the property is listed for auction on Saturday the 31st of October and advertised as a possible knockdown and rebuild. The interim heritage order permits council the time to research and make recommendations to be presented back to council for council's further consideration, and it will also alert possible purchasers to the possibility of the property being heritage listed. Madam Mayor, the background to the information is that on the 11th of August...
Well, hold on, just hold your horses. I'll declare it urgent. Continue.
Thank you. Sorry. On August 2020, Council was notified by members of the community of the impeding auction of 122 Atkinson Street, Liverpool. The property is a single-storey timber weatherboard cottage advertised as an opportunity for knockdown and rebuild. The cottage, known as Stephenville, was built in 1917 by the Voluntary Workers Association for Mrs. Boyland, wife of Private Harry Boyland, with 2 children. The cottage was built at the cost of £269, and furniture and internal fittings were provided by Henry Bull & Co. and the challenged Woolen Mills. Private Harry Boyland served in the 11th Australian Infantry Battalion, Australian Imperial Force, and died on the battlefields of France on the 30th of May 2016. The building is representative of 1900s residential dwelling, a rarity within the Liverpool area, but also a community spirit of wartime Liverpool. The community came together to support a war widow and a family and provide her with a house recognised in the Cumberland Argus and Fruit Growers Advocate as a strongly built structure of 4 rooms and the necessary outhouses, the materials costing in the vicinity of £269. The building is more than just a simple cottage, but embodies the history of Liverpool and its community, and the council needs time to properly assess the heritage significance of the building and to determine whether the building should be listed on the council's heritage register. Liverpool City Council may issue the interim order if councillors agree, which is an order that prevents the building from being demolished for an initial period of 6 months to allow for a full and detailed assessment of the building heritage significance. The order can be extended for a further 6 months if council decides to list the building and agrees to prepare a planning proposal to amend the heritage register in the Liverpool Local Environment Plan. While the future of the cottage remains undecided, this is the right time to assess and determine whether we should protect a piece of Liverpool's history. And the motion, Madam Mayor, is, as you can read on the screen, that Council direct the Acting CEO to issue an interim heritage order on 122 Atkinson Street, Liverpool, in accordance with Section 25 of the Heritage Act 1977, to allocate $5,000 to engage a heritage consultant to undertake an independent assessment of heritage significance for 122 Atkinson Street, Liverpool, and 3, receive a further report prior to June 2021 outlining the assessment of the significance of the building and recommendations for future action.
I'm happy to second that one, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Haggerty. Councillor Hall, you had your hand up? Okay, your hand's down. All right.
I had a question as well.
Okay, what's your question, Councillor Haggerty?
You can take this one as a question on notice. I don't expect staff to have the answer, but in December 2017, a report came to council suggesting 13 properties be listed on the heritage register. A majority of councillors voted against that at the time, but one of them was 113 Atkinson Street, and I just wanted to get a question as to what the similarities or differences between these 2 properties were. So why wasn't this property considered then? You know, if they're around the same era and of the same significance. So just a bit of background on both these properties.
I would suspect the staff would have to take that on notice, but we'll have a go. Through the acting CEO, would you have any information, any of the officers?
I'll have to refer that to Mr. Smith, Madam Mayor. I'm not familiar with the background to that. So, Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Through the Acting CEO, Councillor, if you wouldn't mind, I'd need to take that on notice to go back to 2017 and have a look at that report to Council and provide that information to you.
Yep, no, that was entirely expected. No worries.
Thank you. Councillor Chitty, you have your hand up.
Yes, Mayor. Do we have our General Counsel in the meeting?
I'll have to ask the CEO, acting CEO.
Yes, councillors, I'm here.
Yes, George is here. Donna?
Thank you.
Okay.
James,
Through you, Mayor, CEO, to our legal representatives. Is this, are we opening ourselves up for a can of worms here? I mean, this thing is going to auction. It was built in 1917 or something, and we've just realised 2 days before auction, after someone is gone to the expense of listing this property, to come in over the top and throw a heritage order on it, or a temporary heritage order?
Through the acting CEO, potentially. My advice would be to not issue the order immediately, but make that subject to some investigations first.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll speak against the motion.
Okay.
And I mean, heritage is important. I understand that, and I've shifted from being totally against it to, okay, there's times where we've got to consider it. But this is 2 or 3 days out from an auction where people have invested a lot of money. If I read correctly, we were notified in August that this property was going for sale or for auction. Nobody has done, nothing has been done about it. And then 4 days before somebody is putting this thing up for sale or for auction, I'm sure there's some auction expenses that have been incurred. People have done all their research. And then here we are going over the top and saying, well, bad luck. We now need 6 or 12 months to see if there's any heritage significance. Councillor Haggerty noted in 2017, we did a heritage report. This thing wasn't on it. And we're only doing it now to stop someone from selling a property. I honestly don't think this is the right thing. If this motion was to be supported, it's not the right thing to do by the community or the landowner. Council, if there's heritage items out there, go out there now and look for them before somebody goes through all this trouble. I honestly think this is the wrong thing if this thing was to pass.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Rhodes, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate Councillor Chitty's advice, but a part of this is to at least give possible buyers, the property can still go to sale. We're not saying that, but it is at least advising possible purchasers that there may be a possible heritage order placed on this building. As to legal concerns as to whether we're opening up a can of worms, we have very limited opportunity because we have so few of these sorts of buildings in the Liverpool area. This is a one-off chance for council to do the right thing and acknowledge that.
Sorry, point of order, Mayor.
Yes.
What's your point of order, Councillor?
So is Councillor Rhodes insinuating that if we don't support this, we're not doing the right thing? I think that's a bit harsh.
Just change your words, Councillor. That's so okay. I get your point.
Yes.
Thank you.
The point is that we're trying to do the right thing to any possible purchasers because, council could still look into this matter and put a heritage order on the building after it has been purchased. So it's better to inform people before they purchase as to the possibility. And it's only a possibility, Councillor. It will be coming back to council. So this is not a motion which is directing council to place a heritage order on the building. It's a matter for council to look into the issue. And for that matter, I stand firm on the motion.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers against the motion?
Just a question, Madam Mayor, through you.
Yes, Councillor Balut.
Yeah, just to the relevant officers, I guess that was never on council's radar previously as possibly a heritage building, just a question. And if so, why hasn't it been acted? If not, what did we miss? Just a question.
Okay, well, the staff said they'd had to take that on notice and get back to us on that. So appreciate your question. Any other speakers for the motion?
Sorry, if I can again, just one question there.
Your question, yes?
Through you, Mayor, to the acting CEO. What was a request received in August to list this property?
Thanks, Councillor. Not that I'm aware of. We acted on receipt of intelligence initially from Councillor Rhodes and then from other members of the community, to the best of my knowledge. And that was received for, just a couple of weeks ago.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a question.
Yes, Councillor.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the CEO. Well, as you are aware, we have a heritage committee running for ages and years now. How come this specific property is got out of the radar?
I think that it's a challenge to identify each and every property that may be of heritage value. I think what this case highlights is a need for us to probably revisit the documentation and the records of heritage buildings and try and work through the community for a more comprehensive and updated version of those properties that should be listed.
Well, given the circumstances, we had an issue with next door, I think, the paper mill now, heritage site, and that one very close to it. Why we did not investigate this property? Long time ago.
In fairness, Councillor, the staff said they would take that on notice and get back to us. They don't have that information before them. So I appreciate you asking the question, but it's been asked already by Councillor Balut and also in Councillor Chitty in a sort of different way. So we have to wait for an answer on that. Have you any other queries?
Just for everyone's information, it's up the other end of Atkinson Street, so it's across the Hume Highway down towards where the depot is. It's sort of that end of Atkinson Street.
Okay, thank you. Any other speakers for the motion? Would you like your right to reply, Councillor Rhodes? Oh, wait a minute. Councillor Chitty, you've got your hand up?
No,
down?
sorry, it's down now.
Okay. Your right to reply, Councillor Rhodes.
Yes, Madam Mayor. To respond to the councillor's questions and legitimate questions, I must admit. However, it still stands that the amount of heritage buildings within the Liverpool LGA are very limited and they're very precious. And I've got no idea why this particular building slipped off a heritage order, but it is the appropriate time now that it has been brought to our attention to act and to put in an interim heritage order so that a full investigation can take place. If we did not do that, then I believe that council would be, perhaps not doing the right thing. We have the opportunity, and it is best that we make known to people who may be thinking about purchasing this property that it may be heritage listed or it may not be, but they will be aware. And I think that is a situation that some of the councillors who spoke here again tonight have made a criticism of council before. So we're trying to do something that we knew that was not right in the past. Let's put it on the table and try and get this information out to the public that it is a heritage building, but whether it's of significance or not has yet to be determined by council.
Thank you. I'm going to put it to a vote. I'm going to try something different tonight. Those in favour, put your hands up. Put your little hand on your screen. Okay, we've got some missing. There's some people I can't see. All right, it's not working. It was a nice try. We'll have to put the chart up. Sorry, apologise for the inconvenience. George, if we could put the chart up, please.
Can everybody see everybody's name on the screen now? With the chart?
No, can't see it. Sorry.
I can see it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, it's visible.
Oh, mine's shrunk to the size of a peanut. Okay, well, what I might do is, Councillor Haggerty, are you in favour or against?
In favour.
Right, Councillor Rhodes in favour, I imagine.
Yes.
Councillor Chitty?
Against.
Councillor Hall? You're for? Councillor, yeah, he's got his hand up. He's well behaved. Councillor Did?
Against.
Councillor Ayad?
For, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Balut? Okay, no answer. Councillor Cunib?
For.
Thank you. Okay, the motion is carried. Moving on to the next item, which is...
Madam Mayor, before
Madam
you
Mayor?
move on.
Yes,
I
Councillor Ed?
Just before we move on,
that
I actually
motion.
have a declaration of interest.
Thank you. Yes, what is your declaration of interest?
Thank you. It's for Conf 01. So my husband was nominated for one of the awards.
Thank you very much. I'll get George to get the paperwork to you.
Thanks,
And
Madam
you're
Mayor.
declaring...
Less than significant.
Okay.
What's the other one? Non-pecuniary, less than significant. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you very much for that.
Sorry, Mayor, on the previous item, can I be marked as voting against, please?
Yes, certainly.
Thank
Yes,
you, Mayor.
no worries at all.
Madam Mayor, in
Sorry,
relation
Madam
to the
Hold on, Councillor Sheldon, you go ahead.
in relation to the previous item, it might just be worthwhile now that it has passed, that somebody actually contact the real estate agent that's handling the sale so that it's well known to those who are bidding, etc., what's happened as a result of this meeting. And secondly, I was for that motion, although you didn't ask.
No, I didn't, Councillor Shelton. I got to the point where I saw the numbers, so I just stopped the vote. I apologise. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm sure the council staff will speak to the real estate agent first thing tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
The next item on the agenda is on page 76, the booklet.
Mayor, I've got a question about this one.
What's your question, councillor?
Hopefully the CEO can answer this one, but just in relation to Liverpool being classified as a hot spot, my understanding is that the way they classify a hot spot is it's either by LGA or local area health district or some combination of both. Just given the geographic size of the Liverpool LGA, this is causing some, what I believe to be some unnecessary heartache. So, you know, Liverpool stretches from Wallachia in the west to Pleasure Point, Voyager Point in the east. There's a pretty significant distance between those localities, but they're both classified as being in Liverpool. And therefore, with Liverpool being classified as a hotspot, it makes it difficult. You know, one of the examples that was given to me is a woman's been trying to see her widowed mother for, I don't think she's seen her for about 6 or 7 months now because she can't visit the aged care facility because she lives in Busby, and Liverpool's classified as a hotspot. Yet, you know, she's done all the right things. She wears a mask, doesn't go out much, is, you know, pretty much self-isolated. But because she lives in Liverpool, she can't see her mother. And there are plenty of other examples like that where because you're in a classified hotspot, you can't see your loved ones or, you know, partake in other activities that people outside of Liverpool can. And I just wanted to know whether the acting CEO has any information as to sort of how we get off that list, or can we get reclassified at, say, the postcode level? Perhaps that's a more appropriate way to do it, but it's causing, I think, unnecessary heartache to people in Liverpool that are sort of unfairly being lumped, you know, in sort of as part of a hotspot when they shouldn't be.
Acting CEO.
I've stumped him.
Oh, you have? I think we've lost him. He's showing up as initials.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Thanks, Madam Mayor. As the Mayor noted with councillors at a recent briefing, I believe, the local health district has tried to move away from the designation of small localized areas as hotspots, and they come up with a fairly obtuse form of words relating to areas of higher testing or greater interest or some combination of that. What I would say, Councillor, is that if you have the particulars, I'm more than happy to liaise with our colleagues in the Health District. They're very supportive of trying to address individual cases like this, and we have worked closely with them. So I'm happy to raise that issue with them and see if they could respond directly to it.
All right. I'll send the particulars through. Thank you.
Thank you. Have we got a mover and a seconder?
I have a question, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Rhodes, what's your question?
Madam Mayor, in relation to point 3, the extension of the rental relief for the period of the 1st of November to the 31st of December, just two questions. How many businesses are involved in that? And the tenants that are involved in that, I know that we wouldn't be able to say their names, but are they large businesses or small businesses? And have any of them already received benefits from council through other grants?
Through the CEO, I'll see if we can get an answer. I don't know whether we can at this point.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Rhodes, I suspect we'll have to take that one on notice. There's a bit of detail in that one, but I'll ask Mr. Hampouris.
Thank you. Through the CEO, so this talks specifically around council-owned properties. So we've provided rent abatement up until the month of August. I believe we have approximately 7 retail properties that we lease out, and we're proposing as part of this to further extend rental abatement for 2 months, and subject to qualification, and if they qualify, to provide them 50% further abatement for the months pertaining to November and December. The qualification is based on the criteria that they have dropped 30% in revenue for the corresponding period, and their turnover is less than 50 million, which all our retail leases are. Oh, sorry, the properties of those rental leases are.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Have we got a mover and a seconder?
I'll move a motion, Mayor.
Hold on, we had a mover and a seconder. I'll deal with those first. That was Councillor Hall and Councillor Rhodes. Yes, Councillor Chitty, what did you want to...
If mover and seconder will just, on number 7, just put 31st of October in there instead of November.
Oh.
So point 7.
Yeah.
So end it this month.
Well, it's up to the mover and seconder. Do they wish to accept that? Councillor Hall and Councillor Rhodes, have that changed to the end of this month, not the end of November?
That's a substantial difference.
Well, it's that particular initiative, Madam Mayor, if I can just say it out so that councillors know which one it is about. It is, the initiative includes council apply discretion when issuing infringements in regards to parking in a no stopping, with the exception, it's parking regulations and issuing infringements, protecting public health and safety. In that regards, fines will only be issued in the following circumstances: no stopping, no parking zones, and in close proximity of an intersection. Trucks parking in residential areas in excess of 1 hour, parking on nature strips where it causes an obstruction to pedestrian and or a blind spot for drivers exiting their driveways, and environmental pollution incidents and dog attacks. And based on what those initiatives are about, I'm I believe that we should extend that to the 30th of November. So I, as a seconder at least, do not accept Councillor Hachiti's amendment.
Can I foreshadow a motion, Mayor, and I'll speak against that one?
Councillor, no problem with that. Do you wish to speak to your motion, Councillor Rhodes?
It's just, well, it is the recommendations of Council. I'm quite happy to continue with the good work that Council has been doing, and in particular about the issue around the parking matters. Well, you know, I know that a lot of people aren't happy with the fact that, you know, we've got narrow streets and no possibility for people to park anywhere anyway. And that's causing issues during the COVID period because more people are at home. So, no, I think that my only concern is issue number 7, and I believe that it should be as per the recommendation in the book.
Okay, then, thank you. Anybody wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Chitty?
Mayor, it's only point 7. I think we've gone through the period where Council has given its discretion for a very long time, and it really more focuses on the discretion around the parking meters and the parking in the CBD. I think it's time people started turning their vehicles over and paying for parking and being worried that if they do overstay that they will get fined. So really that's all it's about.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to put it to a vote without the right.
Could I make another suggestion on hearing what Councillor Hachiti's concern is?
Yes, Councillor, what is it?
Well, I'm quite happy for the parking meters to be turned back on.
Parking meters are on, Councillor.
That for fines to be issued for people who do not abide by the parking fines in the CBD. Can that be included as a something that we're not going to show discretion towards?
A point. I'll just ask the acting CEO, are the parking meters back on?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The meters actually haven't been switched off. The people have realised through a variety of communications, word of mouth and other, that Council has been exercising discretion in terms of issuing fines. So word has spread, and hence you get the demand and the people overstaying the normal periods of time that would apply. I should also point out to Council that the current rate as set out in the report under the considerations section sets out that that has cost, I think the equivalent under Initiative 7 is $600,000 per quarter. So we would be talking in and around $200,000 for the month. There's a very real cost to Council associated with this. And I think the principle of equity may also apply in terms of trying to favour one area over others or vice versa.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rhodes, to accommodate your sentiment, you could add a point 8 that says that enforcement recommence for parking meters, and that would pick that up.
Yes, I'm happy with that.
Is seconder happy?
Yes, well, actually, it's Councillor Hale, the mover of the motion.
Oh, sorry, I've got them written down the wrong way. I apologise.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Okay, then, thank you. So we'll add that.
And I'll remove foreshadowed, Mayor, thanks.
Okay, that's fine. Do you want your right to reply, Councillor Hale?
No, I'm fine, thank you. It's obvious.
All right, well, I'll put the motion. Now, we'll try a show of hands again and see how we go again. If it fails miserably, we'll have to shout out. So put your hand up if you're voting for the motion. I think you better keep your hand down, Councillor Acting CEO. So 1, Councillor Haggerty, yes. Balut, yes. Rhodes, yes. Hull, yes. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 13 here that says
7.
Yep, we've got it. The motion is passed and the foreshadowed motion doesn't come forward. Thank you. The next item is on page 85. don't forget to put your hands down. Okay.
Question, Mayor.
Yes, certainly, Councillor Chitty.
Thanks. Through yourself to the planners, if I may. When will e-planning be updated to show the road layouts and everything else as part of this?
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, through the acting CEO. So e-planning has been updated so far with the new zones under the Eritropoulos plan. Once the precinct plans that are under preparation by the planning partnership are finalised, and that'll include indicative layout plans and further detailed documentation, then the e-planning portal will be updated with that detail, but that hasn't been completed at this stage.
So further questions, if I can, Mayor. In this report, then you talk about how many kilometres of streets and whatnot, and this is how we come to the figure. If that plan hasn't been finished, how do we then be sure that that's what we're actually going to build and that's how much money we need?
Mr. Smith.
Through that, I might refer that to Sean Beckley, the Manager of Infrastructure Planning, who's been involved in the preparation of this. Sean, are you able to answer that, please, Mr. Beckley?
Thank you. Through the CEO, the way that this was calculated was to analyse some existing industrial commercial precincts and provide benchmarks of the quantum of the individual infrastructure type. So to drain a typical precinct like this, how much cubic metres of stormwater do we need? How many kilometres of road do we need? And particular width. So it was developed through benchmarking based on the land use and the zonings that are available at the moment.
Any other question, Councillor Chitty?
No, thanks, Mayor.
Madam Mayor.
Councillor Rhodes, you have your hand up.
Yes, I have some questions. Considering that you are costing, if we go to page 90.5, costing identification, that you're costing out future work for infrastructure and there's no clear delivery date as to when or how, the delivery of the infrastructure is going to be made. I'm just wondering how that was. Does it address the issue of possible anticipated shortfall with the contributions collected and the actual eventual cost to council at the time of delivery? And if so, how is this risk being managed by council?
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Smith.
Yep, I'll refer that to Mr. Beckley as well, if you wouldn't mind, CEO.
That's fine, Mr. Beckley.
Through the CEO, in terms of the calculation of the rate and the amount of money that we need to collect is being done on the best available information we have at the moment. Over time, this is an interim approach that as we get more detailed information from the Department of Planning and the Western Sydney Planning Partnership, we'll be able to actually identify the specific locations of the pieces of infrastructure we need to deliver, and we will also have a time frame and a delivery schedule associated with that. At the moment, this plan is based on the best available information, an opportunity for us to start collecting money to allow development to progress, and as we get more detailed information, we will then come back and refine the plan and make sure that we can identify exactly where the roads that we're collecting for will be delivered and the drainage and open space, etc.
Excellent. Just a couple of more questions, Madam Mayor. And the questions that I have now are in relation to the actual value put on the land out there, and in view of the controversy over the last few days about the purchase paid for a certain property out in that area, which gave a sale figure of approximately 1 million per acre, which is now being questioned by the federal government, and the Valuer General's assessment of property value is based on sales, average sales within an area. The question I have got is, if the valuer general took into consideration those sales of properties which were at $1 million an acre, and if that is the case, and in view of the recent rate increases in the area, are our constituents being overcharged if the federal government now believes that the land is not valued at $1 million an acre?
Mr. Smith.
Thank you for that question, Councillor. There's a lot of detail in that question. The attachment which contains the Eritropoulos contribution plans goes into the detail about how land has been valued, particularly in relation to the land value component of the works that need to be delivered. I think what we'll need to do is take on notice the more particular comments that you've made in relation to those that item that you've identified. But I would refer councillors to the Eritropoulos contributions plan itself, which is a very detailed contributions plan that identifies how land has been valued, the costings associated with that, the per hectare rate of development contributions that will apply, and then how that has been converted into a percent levy.
Yes, thank you very much. I apologise for the acre. I'm too old to change to hectares, but would it be possible for me to send those questions through so the council can give me an interpretation of the situation?
Certainly, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, if I may, Mayor, sorry.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor.
How many citywide parks have we got that are 50 acres around the place in the LGA?
Mr. Smith.
Through the acting CEO, I wouldn't know that off the top of my head. Apologies. If you wouldn't mind, we'd need to take that one on notice as well.
And I'm just getting to, sorry, Mr. Smith, just to what we're actually going to be funding in an Eritropoulos, which is predominantly, I believe, going to be commercial and a lot of business activity. We're funding 10 hectares for 2 district parks, a 20 hectare citywide park, 5 district parks of 5 hectares, and 11 local parks of half a hectare. Is that a lot of parks in the Eritropoulos? And if we go to Councillor Rhodes' point, at the $1 million an acre, there's a lot of money there. Do we have any other area that has a 20 hectare park, 2 10 hectare parks, 5 hectares for district parks, and half a hectare for 11 local parks? Is that a lot of parks?
Through the acting CEO, I think it is when it's said that way, it sounds like a lot of parks, but I think it's important to realise the quantum of land that we're talking about in the Eritropoulos. The initial precincts alone are, several thousand hectares of land. There's a population of upwards. I don't have the details right in front of me. It is in the report that talks about the number of dwellings that are proposed within the Eritropoulos. So, all that is identified. There is a significant amount of infrastructure that will be needed to support that. And it's not just in relation to parks, it's also the roads and the drainage networks that are needed. I think it's important to realise that this isn't council adopting the final version of the contributions plan. It's to start the conversation, particularly with the development industry, in relation to the contributions plan. And the recommendation is to put the draft on exhibition for 28 days so we can get that feedback and refine the plans further as we progress through that exhibition process.
Sorry, through you, Mayor, and I thank you, Mr. Smith, for that point. It's to start the conversation, but also tomorrow when residents see that all of a sudden now pretty much the tax levied on each of their acres is this much, what is their land actually worth? Given that there's now talk of that other fee that's going to be proposed, whatever that other fee is that they're talking about as well. This is not just about developers. This is actually about the landowners who all of a sudden are going to wake up knowing that it's going to be another 703,000 per hectare that it's going to cost to develop their land. And I don't have enough detail here. And I know it's only going out on exhibition to wholeheartedly say, yes, I can support this plan. And unfortunately, I can't support it.
Thank you. I'll take that as speaking against it with a few questions thrown in for good measure. Thank you. but we haven't got a mover and a seconder, so that makes it very odd. Would someone like to move the motion, please?
I'm happy to move the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. We got a seconder?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Is that Councillor Haggerty?
Yes.
Thank you. We've had a speaker against. We got a speaker for.
I'll speak for it, you know, essentially in the grounds that this is going out for exhibition. I note the comments of, I think they're called the Urban Task Force yesterday, and the article in the Herald. Certainly take them on board, and I encourage the Urban Task Force to make a submission. And you know, I'm always open to new ideas and new ways of trying things out. What we have here is $2.5 billion in local infrastructure that needs to be funded. If someone can come up with an innovative way to do that, that's equitable and achieves what we can, I'm happy to take that on board. So let's go out for 28 days and let's get all these great ideas on how we're going to fund $2.5 billion worth of local infrastructure equitably, so we can build a city the size of Adelaide. That's the other thing to remember. This is a city that's going to have a population the size of Adelaide. You've never been to Adelaide. There's plenty of churches. There's also plenty of parks and roads and things that currently aren't out in this part of the world. So we need to fund it and we need to build it.
Thank you, Councillor Caliander. You had your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to make the very quick point that if our experience in our new development or new release areas tells us anything, there's no such thing as too many parks.
I take it you're speaking for. Thank you. Do we have any other speakers against?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to speak for it, if I may.
Well, we'll just see if we've got anybody else that wishes to speak against the motion first. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I think that it has been explained to councillors that we do need a starting point. What I do like about this is that it is being done in conjunction with our neighbouring council, Penrith, and we're both starting at the same starting point. That, to me, I think was a wise decision, and I commend council in taking that direction. I also take note of council's advice that this is to start the process, and as we go further into planning in detail, that things can be changed or moved around. So in light of that, and in light of the council staff's explanation of everything, I'm happy to go along with the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hall, do you want to write a reply?
No, I'm happy. Same sentiments as everybody else. This is a starting point. We need to get it out there. Without it going out there, nothing will happen. So that's basically my point of view as well.
Thank you very much. I'd like you to raise your hands.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. Sorry to do this, but can I just get confirmation? My understanding is that Penrith voted on this last night and they also put it out for exhibition.
I don't know the results. I have to be honest. I know what happened in the football.
I can answer that if you like through the acting CEO. Yes, it was endorsed last night for exhibition.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, could you put your hands up, please? So Councillor Hall 1, Councillor Blute 2, Councillor Haggerty 3, Councillor Caliander 4. I'm running out of fingers. Councillor Rhodes 5, Councillor Cunib, Councillor Sheldon 6. We're over the line. I declare it carried.
Can you report me against, Mayor, please?
Is Councillor Chitty the only person opposing it, because it has to be, your names need to be registered? Councillor Chitty voting against. Anybody else voting against? Okay, so Councillor Chitty's the only one for the typist. Thank you very much. The next item's on page 98.
Yes, happy to pass to move that.
Madam Mayor,
thank you, Councillor Hall. Have we got a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that. Thanks.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Councillor Sheldon. Yes.
Madam Mayor, the map.
The map?
Yes. The map. Hang on. Which one are we up to?
We're on page 98.
Page 98. Yeah, the map on page 101.
101.
Is that the position of Brickmakers Creek? I have had it reported to me that the creek actually runs along the back of the residential properties, not in the area that is shown on that map.
I'll ask the acting CEO.
Mr. Smith, can you provide a detail on that, please?
Thank you. Through the acting CEO. No, you're correct, councillor. The creek runs along the back of those properties. That map is an old map that shows the legal boundaries of where the creek were when that map was originally done in 2008. We can certainly look at fixing that map up, but the purpose of that map is to identify the key site that gets included in the LEP, but the actual location of the creek is not in that location.
Also, Madam Mayor, if I may, on page 103, the fourth paragraph, as stated, Endeavour Energy raised no objections for the planning proposal. However, as requested, Council is to liaise with the agency as further future plans for the multi-storey car park on the site progresses. Is the liaison between possibly putting their needs somewhere else on that land? Is that what that is all about? Could I just have a greater explanation of that? Because where our car park is going, I think, is where they had identified their needs.
Through the acting CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, thank you. Through the acting CEO, that's correct, councillor. So as is identified in Figure 2 on page 100 of the agenda, that land's identified, is owned by Endeavour Energy. We have a lease over that land, and we have been in discussions with Endeavour Energy to determine whether or not they would need that land, whether the council can utilise that land for a park, and then look at work with them on where their needs would be better met. So those discussions still need to occur as detailed design plans for a future car park are prepared, but they don't raise any objections at this point in the planning process.
So we're not going halfway through and suddenly they've got an objection?
Correct. In relation to the planning proposal, they don't have an objection. They're happy for the LEP to be amended. But what we are saying is during the preparation of the detailed plans, and certainly prior to that, continue the discussions that we've had today in relation to their future needs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Hall, did you wish to speak to the motion?
Sorry, Madam. No, I'm happy with it as it is. It's fairly self-explanatory.
Okay, then no problems. Any speakers against? All right, I'll put it. Those in favour, please raise your hands. It might be easier to do it the other way, and that way. Those against, raise your hand. That might be better. I think Councillor Hull's for it. Okay, so nobody against. Thank you. Declare it carried for the sake by unanimous with the typist. Next item is on page 106.
Move that way. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Seconder?
Madam Mayor, I have some amendments to the charter, the alterations in the charter.
Pardon, Councillor?
I second
Madam
it,
Mayor.
Madam Mayor.
Hold on, I'm just trying to hear Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Rhodes, what did you say?
I have some alterations to be considered.
You have amendments. You have amendments.
Yeah.
Well, Councillor, it's in the middle of movement of the motion, so I take your point, but just hold your horses. Have we got a seconder for the motion?
I'll second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Caliander. Now, what is your...
Councillor already seconded it.
Okay, well, seconded in several places. Okay, Councillor Rhodes, what are you wanting to amend or to change or to add?
Okay, Madam Mayor, I know that there has been some contentious issues raised on the panel that represent us, Madam Mayor, where on many occasions we found that the this actual allegations of people are doing things that councillors are speaking out in advance. And the alterations to the charters would be for representation of the DEP, 4.1 membership. Replace the first paragraph with this. The DEP shall comprise 3 high-level and respected professionals who are or have been involved in the design of recent, and perhaps their 1 to 5 years to be debatable by the council, major projects. Such members shall have expertise in specific urban design and sustainable and livable communities that addresses the needs and conditions found in southwest Sydney, and also possess extensive qualifications in at least one or more of the following profession, and then continue on. Now, I am hoping that that particular alteration to the charter would give us people who are aware of the relatively recent developments in planning, that we have such issues out here as heat sinking, and certainly, you know, we would prefer that the members of this particular body would acknowledge that and stop recommending dark colours and dark roofs. And
I'm just going to stop you there, Councillor, just to ask the mover and the seconder, are they comfortable adopting that that amendment into the motion?
And I have
hold on. Sorry, Councillor Shelton.
I'm just watching it go up on the screen, but so far I think I'm comfortable with it.
And then one last amendment, Madam Mayor. On the same page, number 5, DEP appointment and selection for DEP meetings, 5.1 tender process. I would like the first paragraph replaced with Council will advertise and establish a shortlist via a tender or expression of interest process, which will be presented to a council meeting for approval. Members will then be appointed from the approved shortlist by the CEO based on their qualifications and experience, and in the absence of any real or potential pecuniary or non-pecuniary conflicts of interest. I would like to see the lists brought back to council for council's interpretation of the qualifications.
Thank you. I'll just ask the mover and the seconder again if they're happy with that addition.
Yeah, but I'd like to see the wording of it all the way up. It looks like nobody's been able to keep up. The last one seems to relate just to selection methodology.
Can I
I'll read it slowly again.
Hold on a minute, Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Calienda.
Yeah, in the second amendment that Councillor Rhodes just articulated, does that specify that the panel members have to be approved by council before they can sit on the panel?
I would say so, by the sounds of it.
So I'll read out the rest of the motion so it's fair to the councillors, perhaps.
Yes.
Where do we get up to? We've got council will advise and establish a short list via a tender or expression of interest process, which will be presented to a council meeting for approval. Members will then be appointed from the approved shortlist by the CEO based on their qualifications and experience, and in the absence of any real or potential pecuniary or non-pecuniary conflicts of interest.
Okay, so Councillor Calienda, are you comfortable with that being added in?
I think it was Councillor Cunnib who is the seconder of that motion.
I just have a
No,
question.
it's Councillor Calienda.
Yeah, I just have a question about how that materially changes what's currently in the charter for that section.
Okay. Can I address that?
Yes, through the chair, you can answer that question.
Okay. What it is trying to address is that currently we have people who are serving on this particular body that are not projecting points of view that are relevant to our particular area out here in southwest Sydney in ways of addressing heat sinking, and it all reflects back on the quality of life that we're putting through planning processes that affect our constituents. You know, for councillors who are on the particular panels, they'll have to argue, well, couldn't you consider a light colour roof? And to have an answer similar to something which is like, oh, well, I like black roofs. You know, we've got to address this in some way, and at least by doing this, hopefully we will make it known to the people who are selected on this board that this is a very real issue for us out here in southwest Sydney.
Madam Mayor, can I just follow up very quickly?
Yes.
I absolutely take Councillor Rhodes' point and, you know, don't disagree with that. But my question was more around how the amendment kind of materially changes what's currently in the charter. So the proposed charter also says that council will select 3 representatives for each meeting, and how that kind of addresses the concern.
If I may, just very quickly, Madam Mayor, and then I won't go on with it any further.
Okay.
I think that I'm making the point. The point is that these amendments are being put to council to consider in the hope that we can achieve people who are representing us on this body to have a greater understanding of the southwest Sydney issues, of which one of the major one that is causing us concern is issues around heat sinking, which would include their opportunity as the professional body to make recommendations that would deliver a more livable and community, so that they're not suffering intensely from heat sinking as a result of dark black bricks, as a result of dark roofs. And the number of times that this has come up at the various panel meetings is considerable. And by bringing this back to council before, it just gives councillors the opportunity to note that these people have got the appropriate experience and qualifications that would deliver what we know our community needs. So that's the reason why I'm recommending these amendments.
Okay, are you happy with that to be included, Councillor Sheldon and Councillor Caliander?
2 questions on my part, if I may, Madam Mayor.
Certainly.
In relation to, through you, in relation to 4.1, I thought I heard Councillor Rhodes talking about experts with expertise from Southwest Sydney projects. And I'm wondering, those words don't appear to be there, but whether that was part of what she had intended.
No, it was supposed to be there, Councillor.
Right, well, it's not there, so if we're going to vote on it, it needs to fit in there somewhere.
Okay.
The actual thing, let me just find it.
Yeah, because it's no good reading it out.
Addresses the needs and conditions. Addresses the needs and condition. Have we got that? No, we haven't.
Yeah, you've got to get it up the way you want it.
Okay. Let me just start. The DPE shall comprise 3 high-level and respected professionals who are or have been involved in the design of recent 1 to 5 years of major projects. Such members shall have expertise in specific urban design and sustainable and livable communities that addresses the needs and conditions found in southwest Sydney. Addresses the needs and conditions found in southwest Sydney, and also possess one or more of the following professions.
All right, thank you. And Madam Mayor, through you again, the second point was in relation to your next paragraph, when you're talking about a short list, what sort of numbers are you proposing? A short list of how many?
That would be up to the CEO, I would suggest. They know how many they need on that list to keep a continuum of people availability.
Well, if the short list is too short, there's no point of going back to council for approval.
Well, hold on a moment. I'll let you contemplate that for a moment. Councillor Haggerty, you've had your hand up quite a while.
Thank you. Getting sore shoulders. Look, I'm on board with this change in 4.1. As you know, I've been quite vocal about bodies in this area having representation from this area. I think I've had something last month about what's going to happen to Western Sydney Parkland Trust, and that the people on that board should represent Western Sydney. I think what's good for state bodies and federal bodies, for that matter, should be the same for council bodies. So I'm on board with the sentiment of this 4.1 here. Perhaps Southwest Sydney is restricting it a little too much, given this is in essence a sort of planning body. Should it not align with the Western Parkland city borders or something? That perhaps it's Western Sydney rather than Southwest Sydney. We don't want to restrict ourselves too much. The other point I wanted to make, I think the bit about recent was fine. I don't think we got the answer to Councillor Caliender's question about 5.1. I don't see why we need to change 5.1. I think the wording that's been put up to 5.1 is exactly not materially different to what's in that what's in the suggested wording. So I'm happy to support 4.1. I don't think there's a need to put 5.1 in there.
Okay, thank you. I'll take that as 50-50 speaking. Okay, Councillor Rhodes, have you caught up?
Yes, Madam Mayor. The motion up above is now as it should appear. That's what I had in mind.
Mm-hmm.
In answer to Councillor Haggerty's question about the relevance of 5.1, the tender process, that is just another step in what the current situation is, that the CEO just from the expressions of interest then proceeds to approve members to be appointed. And what I would like to see come back to council is the shortlist that is established from which he is going to be making his selection, just as a double check for councillors to agree that, yes, these people are appropriate people that we believe will be able to meet those special things that are written into 4.1 membership that I've changed amended the charter to cover.
I think the difference is, from the sounds of it, Councillor Caliender, is that it was fairly automated previously, the anointment, and this has got an extra step in it. Councillor Rhodes, would you be happy to, under the suggestion of Councillor Haggerty, to make it Western Sydney so you don't end up with...
Yes, Madam Mayor, that did meet an accord with me. What is the name of the planning panel? Is that no longer the Southwest Sydney Planning Panel? Is it the Western Sydney Planning. I've got no idea what the planning panel's name is.
Well, if you just put conditions found in Western Sydney, that would cover it. So just take out Southwest and put West.
Yeah, happy with that.
Fix that up. Councillor Chitty, you have your hand up?
Just a quick question, Mayor, through to Mr. Smith, if I may. In relation to heat sinking, black tiles, white tiles, trees, no trees, which is pretty much 5.1 where Councillor Rhodes is trying to achieve, isn't that better addressed through the DCP? So it doesn't matter who's on that, they've then got to refer to our DCP.
Mr. Smith?
Yep, thank you. Through the acting CEO, they are. So the DCP does provide those planning controls. The apartment design guide does as well. And the Better Place document from the New South Wales Government Architect also has those. The Design Excellence Panel members obviously look at all of those documents. So there are also additional amendments that councillors are looking to achieve a different desired outcome. We can certainly look at that through the DCP review, which is underway. We did review part 4 of the DCP that applies to the city centre not that long ago, but with the more fuller review of the development control plan, we can certainly take on board some of the comments that have been raised tonight as well.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Councillor Hall, you have your hand up?
Yes, Madam Mayor. As you and I are both on those panels, and I always ask questions around the issues that we've just discussed. And I must admit, we did ask the Design Excellence Panel to actually do a presentation to Council some months ago. And I must also stress that I was not very happy with their response when we did ask them, Council asked them, what they thought about those issues. In other words, the heat sinking problem, the solar panels, the colours and so on. And it appeared to me that the panel we have at the moment, this isn't of major relevance to them. So that is probably one of the reasons why I would like to see, or at least see, that these people are in tune with the latest, what they call BASICs regulations, and also are aware of the Western Sydney, the conditions in Western Sydney, the heat sinking, the fact that we've got higher heat areas than we have in, say, the city of Sydney itself. So that was my concern. The other thing is just to add to the tender process, Councillor Rhodes had, Council will advise. Should that be advertised?
I'll ask Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Rhodes?
Which area are we referring to, Madam Mayor? 4.1 or 5.1? 5.1.
Yeah. Yep. You've got advise. I thought you had advertise.
That is a mistake. It should be advise.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Who else? Councillor Chitty, you've got your hand up again. No, it's down. Councillor Rhodes has spoken. Councillor Hall. Now, is there any other speakers?
I'd still like an answer to the question I asked before in relation to just how large or small the shortlist is going to wind up being.
Okay. Councillor Rhodes, you're being asked how large or small?
Madam Mayor, I don't think I'm in a position to answer that because it would depend upon the number of people who submit a tender or an expression of interest. And I think that probably the CEO is in a better position from experience to tell us how many people actually apply.
My concern is that if you've got a relatively small number presented to council for approval, you may not be achieving the goal you're trying to set out to achieve. Yeah. Even if you expressed a goal as to like a substantial number of shortlisted applicants or whatever, otherwise you might defeat your purpose.
Mm. Councillor Haggerty, you had your hand up.
Yeah, it sort of goes to Councillor Shelton's point. And it comes back again to 5.1. I guess what special knowledge do we as councillors have that council staff won't get from these applications? Like I think there appears to be an assumption in this additional step in the process that people will express an EOI They'll put in their resume, there'll be interviews, they'll be asked a whole bunch of questions, shortlist will be put together, and then it will come to council because councillors have some special additional level of knowledge about these people. It doesn't make sense. That's not a question, is it?
Through the Mayor, I will take his concern as a question and just state that what it would allow is for councillors to be assured that the membership conditions have been addressed in the applicants.
Okay, so you've got the motion before you. I think we've had enough discussion on the matter. Does anybody wish to speak against it? Okay, I'm going to do it the other way around because it seems to be a bit easier with the hands. Any hands up if you oppose this? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands, so I'm assuming that everybody supports it. Therefore, I'll declare it carried. The next item is on page 123.
Move that way. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Shelton. Seconded.
Second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Calienda. Any discussion? Is there any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, I'll declare it unanimous for the typists. Thank you. Okay, next item's on page 128.
I've got an
Madam Mayor, I'm happy to move it.
Thank you, Councillor Deard.
But still there is a question. I know this is like a state government issue, but how we can handle this problem with a very, very narrow street? That's the problem there. Oh, I know it's not our issue, not the council. This is state government. We can't ask our compliance officer to breach the rules and regulation. We can't do that. But how we can help our resident with a very, very narrow street?
You won't get an argument from me on that one. Councillor Haggerty, we need a seconder for this motion.
I'll second it if the mover's willing to include an additional point in there.
What is it?
Council makes representations to the state government to, amend the relevant regulations to allow a bit of common sense, leeway, discretion, I think was the word we used previously. As Councillor Hadid said, we have to enforce the law, and it's apparent to everyone, certainly at the council level. I don't know if it's apparent to people at the state government level that the law doesn't make sense.
No.
I have a foreshadowed motion, Madam Mayor.
You might wish to speak against this motion then, and then that way we hear your foreshadowed motion.
Well, Madam Mayor, I'm in agreement with the issues that are being raised about our narrow streets, and I have a motion that I would like to put up.
Well, just speak against this motion using your motion as the evidence of why.
All right, okay. With all due respect to the law, Madam Mayor, I believe it's unreasonable for the state government to implement planning rules and regulation that deliver street widths that are too narrow for vehicles to park on the street outside their own house, what it does is that it doesn't allow it's making unreasonable safety concerns for our constituents. Let me just read what I've got here. They're creating a situation of danger to residents and to further impose fines on residents who are forced to park on verges in order to address the safety concerns that has been created by the planning regulations. The narrow streets, if people don't park on their verges, no emergency vehicles can go through these streets. It's a very serious concern when it's taken down to a one-way strip that is accessible, and that's with people parking on the verges and nature strips. So I'm 100% behind the issues that have been raised about this particular issue, and I believe that we do need to write to the Minister of Transport requesting that the law be changed to allow parking on the verge in narrow suburban streets where signposted to be permitted in the interest of road safety and emergency clearways. But we would need a report back perhaps from Council on the projected cost to prepare plans for the local government area that identifies the suburban streets suitable for on-verge parking and for signs to be erected indicating areas where possible verge parking is permissible, should the law be changed.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor, are you happy to have that extra part put onto the motion?
Of course, I'm happy to have that one. It's part of the motion. And in regard to what Councillor Rhodes said, I think the added part to the recommendation by Councillor Haggerty, it does cover what she wants to achieve.
Can I assure councillors we are making representation on this issue? It seems quite regularly. Unfortunately, we don't seem to get far, but I think the situation being what it is, where a lot of people now are working from home and more vehicles now are in the streets because of that matter, I think we just have to keep on keeping on. But thank you, Councillor Did. Any speakers against the motion?
Madam Mayor, I just say this.
Hold on, Councillor Shelton wishes to speak. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I just say this in relation to as much. We've been down this path a number of times, and we've found in the past that where, to any degree, parking on verges is allowed, what winds up happening is the person with the pram, the person with the trolley winds up going out onto the middle of the road because there are cars parked on the verge, and trying to solve one problem, regrettably, sometimes we wind up making a worse problem. I agree that narrow roads is a major planning issue. It's an issue that's gone back for decades. It's caused no amount of headache, but I'm worried that with good intentions, we try and fix one problem and we wind up making something worse. Councillor Rhodes, when she was addressing her motion, was talking about putting in some sort of report to work out which roads might be more acceptable for parking on the verges, but that's not there as it's written up at the moment.
No, so could I make a suggestion, Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councillor Rhodes.
That I agree with Councillor Haggerty as point one, right to the Minister, requesting the law to be changed to allow parking on the verge in narrow suburban streets where signposted to be permitted in the interest of road safety and emergency clearways.
Yeah.
Would be a good thing to say. But I did say as a second point, prepare a report to be presented back to council meeting at a date that is suitable on projected costs of preparing plans for the LGA that identifies the suburban streets suitable for on-verge parking and, includes the cost for the signs to be erected indicating that these areas are areas where verge parking is now permissible.
Okay.
And the second question that I've got, there is a question, Madam Mayor, to my third point. And the question is, what responsibility has council got to issue parking fines? I mean, we have sort of put this on hold during COVID in the number of parking fines that we are issued. Just because it is law, is it the responsibility forced on council to actually go out there and seek to find people who are, not abiding by the law? Or like
I'll ask the acting CEO. I know the answer, but I'll let him answer it.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we're obliged to enforce the law.
Okay. I'm just going to ask Councillor Chitty. He's got his hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And without giving Councillor Haggerty too much credit, didn't he ask for that report a while ago? And I think staff were working on it or have presented something in relation to verge parking and widening or parking bays in some streets where applicable or appropriate.
Yes. Thank you for the credit, and it is welcome. We'll let the council answer, but yeah, council endorsed a motion a couple of years ago to look into it, and they came back and it was deemed feasible, and they're going to go off and find some streets, and council approved $200,000 a year in the budget. My understanding is that there's a report coming in, I think, November with a list of streets. So, yes,
I think, in fairness, I think Councillor Rhodes is trying to look at something a bit broader. If I remember rightly, we were looking at trying to have parking bays or some sort of extra parking in the streets. But having the verge, as we all know, some streets will never get footpaths for lots of reasons. And, you know, when you look at the amount of cul-de-sacs we have, etc., and one of the problems is that we have a reactive system, not a proactive system. So somebody has to dob you in to get the fine. It's not a matter of our rangers wandering around going, oops, that's dangerous. It's a situation where a neighbour might be narky. Now, having said that, I think I've spoken enough. Councillor Shelton?
Yeah, I just wondered this, in relation to the Councillor Rhodes report that she's talking about, whether you want to make clear in the motion that you get the report first and then attach it when you're writing off to the minister, or at least weighing up whether you want to include it, rather than just writing off and saying la-di-da-di-da, rather than actually having the report. It might give some oomph to it. It might at least be worthwhile to actually see the report and see what its pros and cons are, and that might affect the way you write to the government.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Now, is the mover and seconder happy with those?
Yeah, I'm happy.
3 items. Councillor Haggerty?
No. I don't get the point of preparing a report if we've got a report coming back in a month or two. We know the problem. There's a common sense solution in there. I take Councillor Shelton's previous points about parking on verges will mean people can't get past in a pram, but there's a common sense halfway solution where, you know, on certain strips of land where you can park a couple of wheels on the grass so you're not obstructing the path. Posties can get through, parents in prams can get through. And I think we're just asking for some tweaks to state government legislation to allow that. I don't think we need to go off and do a report. And I'd be against putting signs up because, again, that's an additional cost to council. It's an outlay to council to put all these signs up, and then it's an ongoing cost for council to maintain these signs. Just change the law saying, you know, change the law blanket saying, here's where you can park on the verge. Now, we put out a graphic, I think a month or two ago, that started plenty of conversation online and made it very clear how and where you can park in the street. Once the laws change, let's do the same thing. Let's put out a nice picture and a nice graphic to everyone saying, here's when you can park on the verge and here's how you can do it, here's how you can't. Let's do it that way. Let's not spend, you know, tens of thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars putting up signs and street signs all over the LGA when we don't need to.
Okay, then the seconder is not accepting that amendment, so we go back to that the recommendation be adopted and the council makes representations to the state government to amend the relevant regulations to allow discretion on parking on verges and nature strips.
Well, I would put in a foreshadowed motion.
Yes, that's fine. Hold on. Thank you. I understand that. Thank you. Just hold your horses. Okay, any other speakers for this motion? All right.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I did get quite a few through you representation regarding that. We know that it is a problem, has been, and yes, we have requested that report to come back. Now, I'm told by Councillor Haggard that it'll be back in the next month or two, correct? If I heard that right.
You did.
Which is long overdue, but it's finally coming. I think it's fair to wait and see what that report contains before we start again going for another report and followed by a report and then make a decision then. But definitely we do need to write to the state government and see what our options are, as it is a very common complaint and it is a problem that we have. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Caliander? You have your hand up?
My hand was up, and I was going to say the same thing Councillor Hachidi said earlier. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rhodes, you have your hand up. You've already spoken several times.
I'll ask a question, Madam Mayor.
You can ask a question, yes.
Madam Mayor, the report that is coming back to council that has been previously arranged, is that going to show areas in our suburban streets that would be open and possible for people to park on the verge?
My understanding and memory is yes.
And is it going to indicate areas for the whole of the local government area?
I think they're looking at suitable streets, Councillor.
Yeah, but they were looking at suitable streets, as I remember, Madam Mayor, and I can stand to be corrected, where they were going to put in parking bays, and they were actually going to change the road structures in some instances.
That's part of, yeah.
But they did not talk about just simple allowing on verge parking.
Well, I can't answer that question, but I'll ask the acting CEO whether he can answer it or one of the staff can.
I'll ask Mr. Smith to give the detail on that, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the acting CEO, I'll have to take that on notice to understand exactly what report is going back to Council. As Council will recall, you have adopted the parking on narrow streets policy, as Councillor Haggerty advised, and that allows Council to then prioritise the parking on potentially indented parking bays on those narrow streets and a budget allocation. But in relation to that report, I think it's in relation to that. If I can take that on notice, and I can provide that in more detail to the councillors.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sheldon, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just in relation to I'm writing to the state government, just as a comment. I think in the previous term of council, we wrote to the state government in relation to exactly the same point.
I think it's one of those Dorothy Dixes that keep going round and round. But you have to keep on trying.
Point of order.
Councillor Hart, yes, what's your point of order?
Can I raise a point of order on a foreshadowed motion?
No, it's not here yet. Councillor Hull.
Yes, Madam Mayor, just a couple of comments here. Council is not the only one that issues fines here. It's also the police, and we don't have any control or asking the police to use discretion. If the police want to book people for parking on the verges, which is what the current law is, then it doesn't matter what council, I would think it doesn't matter what council decides, it's still a state government issue.
That's a good point, Councillor. Okay.
Well, Madam Mayor, now the recommendation would be, as far I know, number one, that council now to receive another report. Number two, that council
makes representation.
1 and 2.
Yeah, that's
so
it.
Would you please put the motion?
Yes, I most certainly will put the motion at this point, Councillor. I will ask those against to please show me your hands. So those against, please put up your hands.
It's basically doing what I'm saying. It's just, I withdraw my foreshadow motion.
All right, so we've got three against and the rest are 4. So I declare it carried. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, you can record me as voting against. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sheldon.
Also, I, Mayor, thanks.
Thank you. Councillors, the next item's on page 132.
I'm happy to move that way, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Seconder?
Me too, seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any opposition? Put your hand up if you oppose. Councillor Chitty opposing. No one else, as far as no. Yep. You're opposing, Councillor Chitty? Yes, you are. You're back. Everybody else is for. Declare the motion carried. Next item's on page 148. Bless you.
Thank you.
I'm happy to move that way, Madam
Happy
Mayor.
to second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Hull. Any opposition? Those against, please raise your hands. No hands. I declare it unanimous. Thank you. The next item is on page and carried. Next page on 164.
Move that way. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Shelton, seconded.
Madam Mayor, I don't understand the moving of the motion. I think we have to either support one or two, don't we?
Hold on.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
The recommendation is that the annual pecuniary interest returns for councillors and designated persons, now tabled in accordance with blah, blah, blah. A retracted version of events go on the website. No?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Chitty. No, it's just one action. The returns will go on the website with personal information for safety reasons withdrawn.
Okay. Can I ask a question, Mayor?
Yes, Councillor Chitty.
Do we need to wait? I mean, these returns, I understand, are for a period which has passed.
Yeah.
How often should we update our returns?
Well, we do them every 12 months, but you can, I think, access them and update them at any point if you choose.
Okay, but do you have to, or you can choose to?
You have to.
Well, it depends on your memory, I think. I mean, it's a minimum of 12 months. I would suggest if you want to over-report, no one's going to hurt you.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks.
Okay, so it's been moved, Councillor Sheldon, second, Councillor Chitty. Any opposition? Show of hands if there's opposition. I'll put it, those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item is the committees.
No, I think you missed Corpo too.
Can I move that we move them as a whole?
Yes, we can, and I did miss Corpo too, but I'll do the committees as a whole. Thank you, Councillor Sheldon.
I second it.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Carnib. Lovely to hear your voice. So Councillor Caliander and Councillor Carnib as a whole. Any opposition to those committees? I'll put it, those in favour, those against, declare it carried. We're going back to Corpo 2 on page 168.
Move that way. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Hadid. Any opposition? No opposition shown with little hands. So I'm going to put it.
Councillor Carnib, not okay.
Carnib, yes, that was for the next one. Thank you. Councillor Shelton and Councillor Hadid. Oh, was that you, Councillor Carnib, that moved seconded?
No, that's me.
Oh, it was
Seconded, Councillor Carnib.
okay. All right. So thank you, guys. So I'm going to put it, those in favour, those against, declare it carried. I'm now going to have a 10-minute break. Okay. Well, the next item on the agenda is questions with notice on page 247. Councillor Haggerty.
Yes, so I put this question up last month, and then in those papers there was a series of very detailed documentation in relation to Council's response to COVID, which included some narrative on JobKeeper, JobSeeker, unemployment numbers in Liverpool and how Council was responding. So this is, I guess what I'm saying here is Council are onto it, and thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Next cab off the rank is a question of notice in Councillor Chitty's name on page 245.
All good, thank you.
Thank you. Next item's on page 248 in Councillor Balut's name.
Excuse me. Yes, Madam Mayor. Yes, it is a question with notice. Now, there's a few things outlined there. As a mental health ambassador for the Health Foundation Australia and having a brother who suffers mental health issues, this is a very, I suppose, dear to me and close to my heart, as we often read in the papers that young, dynamic, up-and-coming young talents are very unfortunate and sad to a lot of families committing suicide. It's an issue that has been a problem since the COVID have taken place. And Sydney, some of the quotes, Sydney, the Hunter Hills, Blacktown, the Murray region, outer southwest, and Blacktown, and many other areas that are affected in that matter there. The situation even more confronting for young people who are doing it tough before COVID, Madam Mayor. And now we're in a situation where it's becoming a really major problem for state and national issues. However, if we look at the New South Wales budget for 2019-20, we find that the state government does spend around 2.1 billion on mental health issues, in supporting families and community and all sorts of organisations. And the government equally has invested and committed 700 million prior to that in the 18 for a statewide mental health infrastructure program. And in addition to that, there's a mental health response for COVID-19. Again, New South Wales government has announced an $80 million package initiative to strengthen mental health services during the COVID-19 pandemic. Madam Mayor, it is a problem, really a serious and a sad problem that we're facing. Often we open up papers on the news and hearing about this 16, 17, 18-year-olds, students taking their lives away, sadly. I'd like to pay my condolences to all the families that have suffered enormously. Being a father of 4 kids, Madam Mayor, it is a problem that I can relate to as an individual, as a father, as a person that does have a young sibling who suffers mental health. I think the question, Madam Mayor, is we are a large council of 800 plus staff. What are we doing about it as a big employer of people, people's power, and hopefully we will overcome that and things back to normal. What I would like to say, Madam Mayor, is that it is a problem that we need to address, and hopefully the state and federal will come and then do more. We need to ask why and address all those issues. As much as the state and federal government are contributing in a meaningful manner, financially, etc., I think there's a lot more to be done. When we know that our future, our youngsters' health on the line, it's something that it's worth addressing, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Balut. The staff will take that on board with their response.
Thank you.
Councillor Haggerty, you're up next, I believe.
Yep. This one I think is similar to what happened with the Casula Parklands. I think we're a victim of our own success here. This is a very popular park. Plenty of families getting down there, but I guess I've had a few complaints about driving on Strzelecki Drive. Cars are sort of parking in a haphazard manner. There was a car rolled, I think last weekend or weekend before, where the entrance is. Kids are effectively running out onto Strzelecki Drive. So I guess I know that there are several phases to this project. So I just want some answers on, are we putting in parking? I know in the original plans there's a provision for parking. When's it going in? And just to the broader strategic question there, number 5, when we decide we're going to put a park somewhere, we're going to do it up and it's going to be, say, a regional park or something, do we actually take a step back and speak to the traffic team and go, okay, we're obviously going to get an uptick in parking and traffic on Saturday and Sundays at this park because it's going to be very popular. do we need to do some traffic treatment as part of that, and should we include those costs in the project? So let's not wait till someone is seriously injured or worse. There is a problem here, and we really need to get on top of it before something terrible happens. So the intention of these questions is to put this out there and to make sure that there is appropriate action taken.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Next item's in Councillor Chitty's name.
Mayor, if any officer is in a position to answer, that'd be great, given we've asked these questions a few times over a few years and it's always been, we're almost there. I suppose, are we there?
I don't think we're there yet, no. I'll ask the acting CEO if there's any short response, otherwise there will be a detailed response in the November business papers. So
the short response, Madam Mayor, is that we're not there yet, but we will look at that in the more detailed response. It is something that we're actively addressing, councillors.
Yeah, it hasn't gone away.
Sorry, Mayor. If I may then, Mayor, through yourself to the CEO.
Yep.
In the response when it does come back, can you please advise why we've almost been there for the last 2 years and we're still not there?
Okay.
Happy to do so.
The staff will take that on board, Councillor. Thank you.
Sorry, can I just throw something else in there as well? My understanding is that the original DA for that site was conditioned with some traffic works around sort of Speed and Mill Road. Can we get an update on that one as well?
Yeah, we might just get a full update. I think that might be easier.
Thanks.
Thank you. The next item is in the name of Councillor Haggerty.
No, it's me again.
Yeah, it's you again.
Yep, happy for that one to go out there. I just thought it was appropriate we have a bit of reminder on how everything's going over at Amazon. I noticed there was an article published a couple of weeks ago which disappeared within hours from a major metro publication in regards to Amazon. So just some questions on this would be very welcome. Thank you.
Okay.
Some answers.
Thank you. The next item's in your addendum booklet, and it's Comms 02, page 943.
Madam Mayor, I'm happy to move motion to support option 2.
Okay.
Can that be put up on the screen, please, Mayor? Sorry.
Yeah, they'll ask George to do that.
I'm happy to second that motion, Madam Mayor, with an additional point for the motion. That Council provide a report on possible parks in the immediate area that funds from the sale could be used to better provide or upgrade facilities in that particular area.
Is the mover happy with that?
Sorry,
Yep.
sorry, I had the microphone off. Happy to support that.
Okay, have we got a seconder?
I'll second it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do you want to speak to your motion, Councillor Hull?
Yes, just very quickly, if we look at the map of that area, it's obvious that that block of land was donated or given to council in lieu of, I imagine, section 7.2 funding. And also there's a very large recreational area within a couple of 100 metres of that. So I don't see why we need both. That's where normally I'm totally against selling council land, and I believe in leasing. But in this particular case, I don't think it serves any useful purpose to retain that, and it would simply be an additional maintenance burden on council. And if you look at the results, the majority of residents in the area are actually suggesting that that be disposed of. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll foreshadow.
Yep. Any speakers against the motion?
I'll speak against it. I agree with the points that the councillors have made thus far, except for one. My reading of it was that the majority position was that that the park be retained to support natural play. That seemed to. I'm pretty sure I'm reading the results correctly, but so I agree that it's not the best bit of land. I've gone out there and had a look at it. It's difficult to access by a vehicle, and it sort of tails away at the back. But that's I too am against selling parks unless there's a good reason for it. I think it looks to me about 66% of the people that have been surveyed want to keep it, and they want to support it as natural play. One question I do have in regards to this is, and again, take this one on notice. How did we end up with a less than ideal plot of land when this area got subdivided? There you go.
I'll ask the acting CEO, but you're quite right. It probably will be taken on notice.
I think we'll take that one on notice, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other speakers for or against? Excuse me.
I'll speak for the motion as I'm the seconder, Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor.
The position, it really is a block of land in a residential area, and I can see issues possibly coming forward with complaints about noise and other issues for the surrounding properties, as it's surrounded on three sides. And this is an unusual position to be putting a park. For that reason, I'm happy. As with other councillors, I'm not keen on selling council land, but on this particular occasion and with these issues, I think that if there was a park that didn't meet the criteria as a park, it would be this particular block of land. But I also believe that any funds from the sale of the land should be used to upgrade park facilities in that area. Can we put in word park before facilities in that area in point 3? So, yes.
Councillor Rhodes, can I suggest that we don't ask for a report, we actually make it a condition of the sale?
I'm happy to make it a condition if the mover of the motion is happy with it.
Yes, I'm happy with that. Yes, I am. I think that should be a condition. We don't really want to delay this if we can.
Okay. Are there any other speakers? Okay, can I have a show of hands of those who are against the motion, please? I can't see them all. Oh, hold on.
Is Miss Sanguiliano voting against it, or does she have a comment to make? She's got a hand up here.
I think she's got a hand up. The councillor, I'll ask her.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through the CEO, the recommendation in the report is that the proceeds would go to an upgrade of a park facility in that area. We're recommending that, so I just wanted to confirm that.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right. I've got now. I've got 4 people voting against, and that means the majority is voting. We've got 5 people voting against. That means we've got 6 voting for. So I declare the motion carried. I'd like my name recorded as voting against that motion, please.
Yeah, likewise, Madam Mayor, you can put me down as voting against.
That's what I'm, Madam Mayor.
Oh, can I virtually stand up and call a division?
No, I think it's quite clear from the hands.
Me too, please.
Record me as voting against.
Hold on. Councillor Carnib's name is not there. So
yes, I voted against.
Thank you very much. It's just not showing up on my list, Councillor Carnib. I apologise.
Pleasure.
So it is actually carried. It is lost. The motion is lost with 6 votes to 5. So sorry to cause the drama. So we're now going to the foreshadowed motion, which is Councillor Haggerty.
Point receives and notes the report, endorse option 1.
Okay, seconder.
And I've got to allocate some funds here, don't I?
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Connie. Councillor Calienda. You don't look a bit alike. I'm sorry.
No worries.
In some lights, we have been mistaken for each other.
Oh dear. All right. So,
so option 1, be kept at the park and allocate a sum of $15,000 to conduct feasibility study, environmental testing. Just say $15,000.
Okay.
Just to check on that one, that's I'm going off what's in the report. Is council staff that's adequate to kick things off and fulfil the intention of option 1 there?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Chancellor?
Can the council please clarify what the $15,000 is going for? Is it actually going to be the natural park or remain as is? I'm confused.
I think they're going to look at the feasibility study to see what they can actually do in that park. I think what Councillor Haggerty is probably envisaging is something that happened in Liverpool in another park, very, very similar, where the council worked with the residents in the street in a community action, and they got the men's shed involved and lots of other folk, and they built a fairly impressive garden park with seats and so on that was actually not a full-blown swings and roundabouts, but was really quite pleasant for the street to use and had a different usage to a children's play area. Is that right, Councillor Haggerty?
Yeah, look, that's one of the options. There's some pictures in the report. You know, a couple of logs and a seat. But yeah, look, if something similar to what happened at Farrington Park is feasible and the community there are willing to get behind it, that'd be a great outcome.
Councillor Hull, you have your hand up.
Yes, Madam Mayor. From the report, I don't have the report in front of me, but I was under the impression that 52% of the residents agreed to the sale. Where are we getting these figures from that contradict that?
I'll ask Councillor Haggerty.
Yep, so I think it was probably not the most scientific of polls, but support as natural play. If I'm looking roughly at the numbers, it's about 66, 67% for, the remainder against. Currently use Mimosa Park, about 9% yes, 90, or the remainder no. Rezone, 50. Again, this doesn't actually add up, 52% to 51%. So while I guess I think more people wanted to rezone the park than didn't, much greater majority in this community consultation wanted to support it as natural play.
I disagree with that. I believe the 52% refers to the rezoning and the disposal.
Page 946.
Okay, well, the motion has been defeated. We have another motion before us. Maybe one of the staff can speak to you offline, Councillor Hull, about the report. Any more discussion on this matter? I think it's fairly clear. People that don't wish to vote for this motion, please put your hand up. Okay, carried. The motion is carried. Next item is on page 252 of your original booklet, and it's in the name of Councillor Calienda.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I think with the background that has been provided in relation to this particular motion, the kind of substantial impacts on our council will mainly be on a policy level, so just updating several documents and making sure that, you know, in future where we do have markets on council land and that sort of thing, you know, people are aware that, you know, stallholders may use these kinds of false faux fur products in relation to that have been illegally obtained. The other thing that I just kind of note for my colleagues is that there's currently a petition circulating online in relation to this, and about 852 people have signed it. So there is substantial interest in the community in relation to this. So it doesn't really kind of require a huge outlay of council funds. It requires us to update a few things in terms of our policy and procedures, and there is significant community support for it. So I will leave that with my council colleagues.
Okay, so I gather you're moving it, Councillor?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Through you,
Happy to second it.
One at a time, Councillor Blue.
Yeah, Councillor Calienda mentioned that in markets, etc., for furs that may be obtained illegally. Did I hear it right? Did I hear that right?
That's right. So
what you're referring in that, please, if you can elaborate on this, Councillor.
Sure, not a problem, Councillor. Through the chair, basically it was discovered in a couple of markets down in Melbourne that products that had been branded faux fur, so ethically produced and that sort of thing, had actually been real fur that was illegally, whether it was illegally kind of put into that particular market, or whether it was illegally imported is not really clear. But there was some media attention about that earlier this year that council staff would have circulated to all of you earlier this week.
So falsely labelled, you mean, correct? If that's the correct wording?
Not ethically produced. So basically, one of the concerns was that the animals that this fur was taken from were tortured and were not sort of treated appropriately.
So it was purposely done. It was they knew what they're doing. They put the wrong label on.
Yes, exactly right. So one of the things is that because of the huge push towards faux fur and ethical production of fashion and things like that, in some instances faux fur products can cost as much, if not more, as real fur.
Thank you. We've got a seconder for Councillor Calienda's motion. I'll get to the hands up in a minute.
I'm willing to second it, but I'd like to propose a amendment.
Councillor Cunningham.
Councillor Cunningham's second here. Yes, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I don't know how realistic this is for council to actually be able to police it. To prohibit the sale of fur products, mislabelled fake fur products and other exotic animal skins on council property. Has council got the ability to be able to police that? I think that the motion should be just simply write to the Minister for Home Affairs to call for the banning of Australian imports of all fur and fake fur products.
Well, Councillor, you're seconding the original motion, so I don't think it's really... No. Oh, sorry, you aren't. I apologise. I took you off. I apologise. Okay. Well, I would suggest that you ask the mover whether she'd actually take on board your suggestion. If not, you can move a foreshadowed motion at a later time.
Yes, I agree with the motion's concept. I just don't know whether it is going to work in practice. And I do believe that the council should be promoting on the website its objection to the fur trade and educates the community on the cruelty to animals practiced by the fur trade, and perhaps even identifies China as the world leader in the fur trade. Imports into Australia. But from my point of view, I think a very straight, direct request sends a very clear message, whereas I don't know whether council is going to be able to police all those things that are in the councillor's motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hachidi, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. I've also got an issue with point 1. I've got a couple of questions through you to Councillor Caliander, if I can. If you are going to do that, can we also ban the selling of fake Adidas and fake Louis Vuitton at Liverpool as well? I mean, how many fake things can we try to ban? And the second point in point 1, where there's an exemption for a particular group, if we're against an issue and we have an issue, shouldn't it just be a blanket ban for everybody instead of just selecting people? Because this doesn't then solve the problem that you're trying to solve.
Councillor Caliander, would you like to reply to that question?
Sure, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, in response to Councillor Rhodes' question about the impost on council in terms of policing this, there is no, as you'll read in the actual substance of the motion, there is no requirement for council to police it. That would not be appropriate. What it actually calls for is for council to review policies and our own application forms and guidelines and that sort of thing to prevent the sale on council land. So, like I mentioned earlier, my background, all it would require us to do is, put in a box where stall holders or, operators of markets could say that, yep, that's something that they've considered and that they're willing to do. So there's no enforcement imposed on council in terms of that. The second and third points of the motion call on the federal government and the state government to introduce, whether it's testing or other quarantine or customs measures in terms of stamping out some of the more cruelty related concerns with the fur trade. And going back to Councillor Hachidi's point about banning fake Adidas, etc., I think knockoffs are going to exist of many things. The point is not to ban knockoffs. The point is around the cruelty to animals in relation to this particular issue. There is a really strong community, sentiment against cruelty to animals. And, most people vote with their feet by trying to purchase faux fur products and rather than real fur. The issue here is when people are trying to do the right thing, they're being sold actual fur products that have been sourced with cruelty. And in relation to the exemption for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander vendors, those sorts of products have been sourced through cultural practices or generally sourced through cultural practices that don't perpetuate cruelty towards animals. So the core of the motion is to address products that have been obtained through cruelty to animals. So we're not trying to, totally change the world and ban all sorts of knockoffs and fakes. That's not really possible, but we're trying to do what we can to address the concerns that exist within our community.
Thank you, Councillor. Any speakers against the motion?
Madam Mayor, I don't want to speak about the motion per se, but I still have issues with the actual writing of the motion. I still believe that it would make a stronger point just to ban the import of all fur or fake fur products into Australia. But in relation to the other points, if we just go up so that I can read them again on the screen. So number 1, okay, all right, for what it's worth. I mean, you can leave it there, but if we had a total ban on all fur, we wouldn't need that. Number 2, that's where I think that we should be making it a very simple and a very strong message that we will not support and will not tolerate cruelty to animals. And so a simple inclusion of the motion, the motion that I said, would replace 2 and 3, and promotes through its website and other suitable communication channels not so much information to help residents and businesses report the sale of suspected illegal animal products, because they're not going to be able to tell whether it's even fake fur or not. but I do think that it would be very, very good for council to educate the community through its website and suitable communication channels about the cruelty involved in the fur animal trade, fur products trade, and the reasons why council is asking the state and federal authorities to ban all fur and fake fur products. So, you know, again, people are not going to be able to really address B, the reselling or throwing out of old or vintage fur products, because as sure as you if you do that, you know, it'll take somebody in China 5 seconds to work out, oh, well, we can make this look vintage and get it into Australia, and you'll still have fur products being circulated. So I think it's just got to be a very simple, clear message. No, we don't want it. We don't support it. And the reason why we don't support it is because of the great cruelty that it does to animals. So, you know, if Councillor Caliander would be willing to take on board some of those issues that I've raised, you know, I don't have a problem. I think it would be a better motion.
Councillor Caliander?
I think a lot of what Councillor Rhodes has sort of covered is in the background to the motion. I absolutely agree with you. I think the ideal world that we want to get to is to ban all of these products. However, there has to be a transitional process, and that's why the motion that is currently before you incorporates some of those more practical things that need to be done so that we could get to you know, to a stage of banning it down the line. So I absolutely, you know, agree with where you're coming from.
Well,
just replacing 2 and 3 with saying we don't.
Rhodes, I think you've had 2 bites of the cherry. I think enough's enough. Thank you.
Can I speak in favour of this motion?
Yes, Councillor Haggerty, go right ahead.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I guess I take Councillor Rhodes' points, but it's like any illicit material, whether it's drugs or fake Adidas tracky dacks. You know, it's not enough to ban their importation. If there's money involved in it, people will find a way to smuggle it. And so you've also got to, you don't just police it at the border, you've got to actually police it once it gets into the country. And so I think that's what the additional points here are about, that, you know, this is, I guess, all 3 levels of government coming together to do what they can where they can. So the federal government doing what it can at the border, the state government doing what it can as primarily the level of government in charge of, you know, regulation and that kind of thing, and then council doing what it can as it normally is the one that looks after markets and that kind of thing. I'll just add that as of about 2 or 3 weeks ago, City of Sydney, Canterbury, Bankstown, Inner West and Blue Mountains had passed similar motions. And my understanding was that in addition to Liverpool, there were about 6 other councils that were considering this either this month or next month. So this is by no means Liverpool sort of out there leading the way. This is there's a few councils have already done that, and there's a few on the way. So no doubt those councils have grappled with some of the concerns and have considered a motion very similar to this to be appropriate.
Thank you. Councillor Hitchity, you had your hand up.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll speak against it, and it's really speaking against point 1, but obviously speaking against it means I'm speaking against all of it. And really now, in Councillor Caliander's own words, is we're going to amend policies, but we're not going to police it. What's the point of amending a policy if we ain't going to police it? Point 2, 3, 4, plus the points that Councillor Rhodes was making would make a better motion. There's no point bringing in a policy if we're telling staff don't police it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We've had speakers for and against. Councillor Rhodes, you've got your hand up, but you've spoken twice, so I'm not going to
announce that I want to do a foreshadowed motion.
Yeah, well, I know, I'm aware of that.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Caliander, you want to write a reply?
Yeah, look, I understand where Councillor Hitchity is coming from. However, in terms of where this sort of trade is in Liverpool at the moment. Currently, what council can do is review our policies and application forms and guidelines. Down the track, if we do get reports of illegal activity and that sort of thing, then the enforcement component or the enforcement piece of this can come into play. However, this motion has been written to reflect the current state of play in terms of this. So that's what I was talking about in terms of enforcement not necessarily being on the table at this point in time. So I guess the motion is before you. We've had an extensive discussion about it, so I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Those that are voting against it, if you could please show your hands. Okay, so we have Councillor Chitty voting against, Councillor Rhodes voting against. Councillor Chitty, are you voting against? Yes. So 3, Councillor Hall. Okay, so 3 voting against, the rest are voting for. Declare that the motion is carried. Thank you. The next item, and the foreshadowed motion dies. Next item is in the name of Councillor Ayad, and it's Liverpool Civic Place.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to move that just with some changing of the words, if that's okay.
Yes, sure.
So for number 1, provide a public update on the council website on how much a total debt will be when Civic Place is completed. Number 2, provide a public update on the council website on how much a total repayments will be, etc. Number 3, as is. Number 4, as is. And I just wanted to change number 5 to provide councillors and the community with sufficient information to be adequately informed in line with the advice from the Office of Local Government.
Thank you. We have a seconder.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I just want to clarify, with the advice from the Office of Local Government, should we put a date in there on when the advice was received? It was the one received, stamped 19 October, officially dated by the Office of Local Government 13 October.
Yeah, you can put that in there.
2020.
Yeah. Okay, would you wish to speak to your motion, Councillor?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
So the intention of this motion is for council to remain completely transparent with the community and to provide them with regular updates. I decided to change the wording. I feel that with the council website, if it's advertised on council website, it will be clearer for the community and in line with the advice received from the Office of Local Government, which was in the CEO update received on Thursday by councillors. I'd like to read out a little bit of that letter where it says, the guidelines require council to ensure that its reporting processes enable the councillors and community to be provided with sufficient information to be adequately informed. Council has indicated it will produce monthly reports during the construction phase of the project to the Project Review Committee. These should also be presented at a council meeting at least quarterly, ensuring the elected body and the community are informed of the project status. It is essential that clear accountability for project reporting to both council and the community is provided throughout, so that the community is kept informed of key elements, costs, and decisions made in relation to the project. Madam Mayor, so I believe that the motion before the council is clearly displays the guidelines from the Office of Local Government, and it would be great if these updates could be put on the council website for councillors and the community to access.
Okay. Thank you. Any speakers against the motion?
Just a question through you, Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Councillor.
To the CEO, when do you think this will be up on the website and how often will it be updated? Is it on a monthly basis?
Thanks, Councillor. The monthly report will go through to the Project Review Committee, and as Councillor Ayed has just cited, the recommendations from OLG are that Council will be updated at least quarterly. That would be the intention.
And sorry, when will it be live, the first one?
Well, that would follow the more comprehensive report. Our intention was to bring that to the November Council, and it would have followed on from that.
Through the chair, if I may, in light of that comment that Councillor Hachidi has made, would it be appropriate to add a number 6? Would that be enough time to have the link actually put up on the council website, providing the public with the information that council basically already has? And then as the building progresses, just add to that information and update that information.
Can I reassure the councillors, the audit committee has been informed that the information will be up on the website as soon as practicable, and that's the basic information which I'm sure will be added to from as it progresses.
Yeah.
So that's already in hand, councillor, is what I'm saying.
So, Madam Mayor, can we still put a date on it? Maybe if November's too soon, I mean, could we have December written there?
Yes.
So that the link be up by December?
Yeah, that information about the project be on the website by December, and it links with the progress of the project.
Thank you. Now, just for clarity, now my points outline the costs involved in Civic Place. Now, those points, would that be enough to basically project what the Office of Local Government wants? Because it clearly says elements, costs and decisions made in relation to the project. So I'm just concerned that this won't be adequate enough. Is there something that maybe we need to add to make sure all bases are covered in line with the Office of Local Government's advice?
Can I actually say to you, councillor, I understand your angst and I do genuinely appreciate it, but it is very much the council's senior officers' responsibility to ensure that they do maintain the obligations of the OLG. There's also information that I think you would have to understand would be commercial in confidence that won't be able to be on the website for public consumption. So there may need to be some sifting of information, not to hide anything from anybody, but unfortunately when you are doing business, you are not at liberty sometimes to give everything out to people. So, but I think that making sure that the public gets the facts, I think is very much uppermost in everybody's minds, and also that councillors are kept well informed of the progress and the costs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, anybody wishes, oh yes, Councillor Chitty, you've got your hand up? No, Councillor Rhodes.
No, sorry, Madam Mayor, it was laziness.
All right, well,
my hand up, Madam Mayor.
Your hand's up, Councillor Hadid.
Yes, here, maybe.
I didn't see your hand, I apologise.
No worries, maybe it's too small.
I'm not going to say that. It's very tempting to make a comment, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Keep going.
Look, Madam Mayor, first of all, let me make it crystal clear. I'm not shying away from the fact that I have supported this project from day one. But given the circumstances now, under the COVID-19, the economic situation, the better real estate market, the property investment, all these factors make me a bit worried, to be honest with you, to make a very speed decision in this regard, not to take our time and engage the community with this. To be honest with you, we have to go back to the community with very open mind and open hand, open book, and let the community know what's going on. Because we are going to invest a huge amount of money. If the circumstances stay as is now, we may face a very difficult time. We will find ourselves in very bad position to meet our obligations. Well, therefore, I believe we should go to the community with a clear answers, with all the facts, how we will fund this project. under the circumstances? Are we going to increase the rate? Are we going to cut some of our services under the difficult circumstances? They should know all of that. How are we going to meet our obligation? And let them make a decision with us, not only a level with us. Because as I said to you, it's very big decisions to make. And I reassured you, I showed the community from their way. We said, well, look, we will support this project because I believe it is a good project. But now it's a very difficult situation. Circumstances getting bad. It's not improved. And I don't know how we will meet our obligation in the future if nothing has been changed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Did. Unfortunately, Council has legal obligations, and it's not a matter of at this point being able to say we're not going to do this project any further. If we do, there are very big penalties which would impact on our budget.
I didn't say we don't want to do it.
No.
I said get the community engaged and tell them all the facts and all the answers and how we can meet our obligation. That's what.
And that is why I think having the fact sheet up on the web page, on the website, is really important. Yep. And having it updated on a regular basis, because you can direct people to that. And then if anybody in the community is being mischievous and misleading people, you can actually say, no, that's not correct. Go to the website and you'll see the information there. And also we are, as councillors, and I don't disagree with people being uncomfortable and nervous, I have to say it is a big project, but it's a generational project. And the reality is, though, that this has got a lot of people looking at it internally and externally. So it's not a matter of, three boffins in a room deciding. It has actually been looked at by our audit committee, other folk around, and it's being taken very seriously. So that is one part of that makes me feel reassured, but it's always very difficult when you are committing to such a big project. But I take on board your concerns. Councillor Hull, you have your hand up.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Despite this motion, what you were just talking about, that information is going to be on the website on a continuing basis, irrespective of this motion. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we've had enough discussion. Thank you all very much. If you're going to vote against this motion, put your hand up now. You've got your hand up, Councillor Hall. You're voting against?
Oh, dear.
No, he's killing his hand off, Councillor Rhodes. Okay, so Councillor Rhodes, you're voting against?
Madam, I'm just wondering about Councillor Hull's last comment. Is this motion necessary then, if it's already been done?
It's in hand, but what this is doing is saying to the public, the councillors have endorsed this action, and councillors see it as a priority. So that's not a bad thing to do. It's putting a line in the sand, and it's saying to the staff, and I think it's reassuring for the staff, because the staff are saying, well, this is what the councillors want us to do. This is what the OLG wants us to do. And it gives the council staff direction. I don't know whether the acting CEO would like to wade in at this point.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Ayed, I actually have the correspondence here, and I was going to cite from that. I wish to give the Mayor and councillors and the community every assurance that we can, that we will be as open and transparent and prudent in the way this project is managed and advanced, and we are as an executive team absolutely committed to ensuring that you are fully informed, you're the decision makers in this process, and that you will have all the information that you need to make informed decisions, and that we consult with the community and communicate to them. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Those against the motion, please raise your hand. Declare it carried. Thank you. The next item is on page 860 in your book. In your confidential book, sorry, I apologise. Shut that book, open the other one.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, can we have that last motion declared carried unanimously?
If you wish, yes, no worries, unanimous, that's
Yep.
fine. I'll have the minutes show it as unanimous. Okay, the next item is on page 766.
Madam Mayor, I have a question in regards to this.
Remember, it's in confidential, so try not to breach any of the confidential issues.
Can we do it in closed session?
You can move it into closed session if you wish. Is there a personal matter relating to this that you wish to raise?
Yes, it's a matter that an issue that I need counsel to address for me, and that would be best done in confidential.
All right, well, we'll move that item into confidential. We'll move on. The next item is on page 860.
Happy to move that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hung. Seconded?
Yeah.
Councillor Hadid.
Thank you, Councillor Did. Any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item's on page 876.
Madam Mayor, I have a question about this one.
Remember, it's in confidence, so just... Yes, what is your question?
Sorry, let me just go back to it. So my question was more around future joint regional procurement initiatives. So whether going ahead with the recommendation would take.
Going ahead with the recommendation
would take the possibility of participating in a future joint regional waste kind of strategy or procurement. Yeah,
I'll ask the acting CEO for comment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'll ask Mr. Patterson to comment.
Yes, thank you, CEO. No, it would not compromise any future joint ventures.
Happy to move the recommendation, Madam Mayor.
Second.
One more question before.
Hold on. Thank you, Councillor Hall. Seconded was
Councillor Hadid.
Thank you. Yes, what is your second question, Councillor Kelly-Ander?
Whether the proposed waste strategy would include consideration of food and organic waste.
It will, Madam Mayor.
That's Kelly-Ander.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there any opposition to this motion? Please raise your hand. Declare it carried. The next item's from page 904.
Move that way. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody opposing, please raise your hand. Declare it carried. We will now move into closed session based on section 10 part 2. I think we're going to be talking about personal matters, and the meeting is now closed to the public. I don't know if I'm going to read these all, George, but you can we'll try if you want to put them up. And thank you, Councillor Chitty, for pointing out we'd forgot Woodward because I didn't turn the page. I'm so sorry. Now, all right, we're in open council. No, I read that one out earlier. we did that one, we should have done that one when we came out last time. This time we are endorsing the Woodward Pass Master Plan for the further agency and community engagement, approve the commencement of negotiation with CLC, the interim to require or otherwise seek compulsory acquisition of the CLC land and report back to Council for final approval, provide sufficient funding for further works as highlighted in the report, and provide separate report to Council for its master plan adoption. The next motion was agreed that we endorse Rossmore Grange Austral as a preferred site for the Liverpool Animal Shelter on the basis that it would incur no additional land costs to Council, with further detailed studies of the site being required. Direct the acting CEO to proceed with the process required to amend the plan of management to prepare a planning proposal to amend the LEP 2008 to permit the development of consent to animal boarding or training establishment on the site, including the appropriate budget allocation for necessary studies to support the planning proposal. Note that a further report will be submitted to Council regarding the progress of the planning proposal, including the advice of the Liverpool Local Planning Panel and detailed design costings. Approve the costs associated with establishing a new animal shelter on the site to be funded by the proceeds of sales of surplus land, which is considered by Council in November 2020 meeting. In the instant Council does not resolve to sell surplus land, then the animal shelter is funded from T Corp loan. Approve an extension of the interim arrangement at Rossmore Vet for a further period outlined in this report, and that was carried. Excuse me. Thank you all very much for your patience, and thank you very much for attending, and please stay safe, and the meeting is now closed.